Why are my orchid leaves splitting? We all want our orchids to look as good as possible, but it's not uncommon to see orchids with split leaves. The question is, why does this happen and what can we do about it? So, why do orchid leaves split? Well, the answer is there's several reasons. Irregular watering, insufficient humidity, excessive direct sunlight, or even trauma to the orchid plant can cause splitting of the leaves. But sometimes orchid leaves do just seem to split, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're not taking good care of your plant, and maybe we shouldn't worry about it too much. We're going to have a look at the causes of split orchid leaves and see which ones we can fix and which ones we just have to put up with. Before we go on, obviously you can see this orchid has seen better days. It's got plenty of lovely blooms on it, but the leaves are not in good shape. This leaf obviously is badly split, as you can see, brown tip, dehydrated, wrinkled, about as bad as an orchid, as a phalaenopsis orchid leaf could be. And round the other side, we've got further signs of some serious damage. We've got scorched leaf tips, the cracked leaf. I mean, the end of this leaf is essentially dying. In fact, really only got one healthy leaf on this orchid, and we're very much nursing this orchid back to health after it was sort of subjected to conditions that weren't ideal for it. But we're going to go on and talk about causes of split orchid leaves generally, first of all, and then we'll come back and discuss why this orchid in particular is struggling. So the first reason why orchid leaves split is erratic watering. Not all of us are great at remembering to water our houseplants. Orchids tolerate being a little bit dry quite well, but it can cause leaf splitting at times. And the reason for this is orchid leaves, there's quite a lot of sort of turgor or stiffness to the leaves, and this is caused in quite a large part by the water that's contained within the cells of the orchid leaves. So if you don't water your orchid very often, the leaves can get dehydrated, and then if you suddenly water your orchid very, very well, you get a rapid influx of water into the orchid leaf, and this leaf, which might have become a little bit wrinkled, dehydrated, might have been wilting a bit and drooping down, all of a sudden the water rushes in, the leaf plumps up, the leaf turgor is restored, and the leaf tries to regain its normal shape. So it goes from quite a wilted position to all of a sudden trying to get back to its normal shape. And sometimes just the pressure of this can lead to a split in the leaf right down the middle. Obviously this is easily avoided by just monitoring the dryness really of the potting media. Obviously this is not great potting media, so ignore that, but you just want to obviously assess whether the orchid needs watered and water it sufficiently, but not too much and not too little, and you'll avoid split leaves from that for that reason. Second reason is lack of humidity. Orchids in an ideal world grow in humidity levels of between 40 and 70%. Most homes have humidity levels on the low end of this scale or lower, so already orchids are often kept in more arid conditions than they would ideally like. Once you get down to the extreme low humidity levels, you can get dehydration of the leaves very quickly, and with dehydration runs the risk of leaf splitting. And again, that's part of the reason why this leaf has split. Although it's not entirely, it's more to do with the fact that the leaf has been scorched by the sun, but partly because it was left in a very arid conditions, which caused the leaf to split. So the third reason, and the main reason why this orchid has got split leaves, is excessive direct sunlight. This orchid was placed in a south-facing window, and bloomed profusely for months and months. And then obviously we've now got all these secondary flower spikes that have developed. So this is its second round of flowering in the last 12 months, and it's doing fantastically. But it's put the plant under an awful lot of stress. The direct sunlight, the plant was able to photosynthesize a lot, but it's led to damage to the plant. So the plant couldn't tolerate the direct sunlight, and it's actually got sunburn, and it's scorched the leaf. It's killed the tips of these leaves, and these won't recover, and they're just permanently damaged. But I'm hoping that if I take good care of this plant over the next year or two, we'll get some new leaves forming. We can look after them a bit better, and we can avoid this problem happening again. I got this orchid about 3 months ago, so I did, and when I got it, these leaves were very pale green, and this one was almost completely yellow. So I've actually purposely kept it in slightly lower light conditions to help the leaves to green up again, and just to try to repair some of the damage. So another reason why orchid leaves can split is just trauma. If you're too rough with the orchid, if you drop the orchid, if you let children or pets, play with the orchid, or if they're nearby and they accidentally traumatize it, you can get split leaves. So quite often you'll see splits from trauma. They can be vertical, but they can also be horizontal across the leaves. You can get rips in the leaf almost, and sometimes actually you get an entire part of a leaf that's broken off in extreme circumstances. Does it matter if the split is horizontal or vertical? Well, I think most horizontal splits, more horizontal splits are caused by trauma, more vertical splits are caused by either just natural splitting of the leaves or improper care conditions. It's not a hard and fast rule. This leaf here hasn't been subjected to any trauma, but there is actually, there's a horizontal split there, and then around here we've got a vertical split down this one. So both those were from improper care rather than trauma. Trauma does have a higher tendency to be horizontally across the leaf. Okay, so I think that covers the main reasons why you get split leaves on an orchid. I suppose I just want to come back to the fact that if your plant has lovely green shiny leaves, but you get a split in an otherwise healthy leaf down the middle, generally this isn't anything to worry about. If your plant looks healthy, if it's flowering nicely, if the leaves are green and shiny, don't worry about it. Split orchid leaves can and do happen. Just go through the different aspects of orchid care. Try to improve anything that you think isn't ideal, and it may make a difference in the future. Sometimes I've actually found that the healthiest orchids can sometimes get a leaf split, so I really wouldn't worry about it. And a healthy leaf splitting down the middle a little bit generally doesn't look too unsightly, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you want to read a little bit more about leaf splitting and phalaenopsis orchid care in particular, I'd love you to go over to my article on this topic on my website, smartgardenguide.com. I've also got a lot of other articles about orchid care, specialising on phalaenopsis orchids. If you've liked this video, please press the like button below and consider subscribing. I'll leave the link to the relevant article on my website in the description below. Thanks very much for watching. If you have any questions, please post them below. I'd be delighted to answer them. Till the next video, thanks very much.